I want to talk more about this angel investing thing and why on earth you felt like it was something you wanted to do. And I think you've made, probably over 36 investments. You're in Dudley Fund, Fresh Tracks, one out in the West Coast. So just bring us through the process of some of the homework you did. Mm-hmm. Okay, because I think there are others out there that may want to do this, and any lessons learned in that regard about, all right, I want to start putting my private capital into these businesses. How do I judge good or bad? How do I know I'm not being fooled? Or why am I so lucky that I get to do this one? How was that sort of awkward first couple years?
When I stuck my toe in originally, it was a national syndicate situation. And for those that don't know, what happens is people will start a syndicate and then you can invest with that person, and hopefully that person has some kind of track record. And in a lot of ways, you're trusting that person. And you say, well, if I'm in the syndicate of this guy that I really trust and I read all his books and he's had some good success in the past, he or she, then I want to be part of that. And that's how it began for me. And one thing I liked about the syndicate is you could get in very cheap. So you could get in for, at the time, I think it was $4,000. It might be up to $5,000 now. But it's a really good way I found to learn about this without spending a ton of money, because sometimes locally, and certainly not always, but sometimes locally, it's hard to get in for like a $5,000 thing. You might need minimum, 25, David, you would know, and a lot of times really more than that. And going back to the syndicate thing, what I liked about that too is they guarantee you that the company that you're investing in will give you updates. So I was actually learning from the syndicate itself, why are you investing in this company? Give me the reasons. What are the pluses? What are the minuses? And then when you'd hear the updates from these people and their companies, I just felt like I was learning a lot about this industry.
You get to put a couple chips down,
that's what I thought,
on the board, and then just sort of learn different insights, right? Because it's deal structuring and then the operations. And
and to me, education, I can't put a price on that. So I'm thinking to myself, if I put in, this many $4,000 or $5,000 bets and lose it, I certainly never put in more than I could afford to lose. So, a percentage of my portfolio, mine and Kate's portfolio, is in private stuff. And I really believe in it. And especially when I got more involved in Vermont, because then you literally know the players. You're shaking hands with them. You're going to meetings with them. You're getting updates from them. Depending on what the product is, you can buy it. And it got much more exciting when, as you guys know as well as anybody, to actually be part of a company that is hiring people that are local. People are moving here to work for this company. It's wildly exciting. And that just means so much to me, because I want to see Vermont thrive.
Yeah, so talk about your love for Vermont. Obviously, you're not from here, but you've been here for a long time. And what do you find special about Vermont and the startup ecosystem here?
I think more than anything, access. I think in some of the bigger cities, it's hard to get to some of the people you want to. I'm not sure there's anybody that wouldn't let me talk to them, if that makes sense. I was going to say take a call or whatever. I love that about here. And there's an absolute overall feeling here that everybody helps everybody. I have not run into anybody who was a roadblock here in terms of investing. I don't think, I can't think of a time. I'm not sure that what the case is other places, just because I haven't been there, but I find it hard to believe that that's the case in a lot of other places.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, the access to just ask an opinion or to find out why investors are in a company that maybe you want to consider joining on the cap table at some point. It's information, it's relationships, it's, we get 20, 25 cold emails coming in a day, someone pitching something from all over the planet. And you become immune to those at some point. You just sort of delete them and don't read them. So I think there's a real benefit to place and other trusted parties that you could go take a more serious look at an opportunity.
Well, I think of a guy like you. You know, you've been here for a long time now. I read about you, did a little background, and figured, well, there's a guy who in the world, or, you know, why in the world would that guy want to talk to me if it's like, oh, there's the guy from TV and I don't have time for that. So I've got some companies to work with or whatever. You, and you were just one example. It's like, oh, hey, you're interested in this? That is really cool. Why don't you come up to VSET? I'll show you around. What can I do to help you? That to me is just huge. And I just find that over and over again here.
Yeah, I think it's, I do remember our first conversation here at VSET. I usually try to talk people out of it. I just say, no, this is not for the meek, or it's such high risk, maybe high reward, but just mostly that there's alignment about why to be an angel investor. And I was an angel investor prior to starting at VSET, many years ago too. And it's awesome. I mean, any stories of a pitch or an entrepreneur that just really knocked it out of the park, and how they, what came across? Like, what was the magic that made you connect with the business or them?
Yeah, Lindsay over at Bolton Valley.
Yeah, Lindsay
I've never
DeLorean,
seen anything like it. Yeah.
She's awesome.
So she's going to do a pitch, and by then, I had some friends, so we're all going to see the pitch together, and I'm like, yeah, right, a ski area. That, good thinking with climate change and stuff. Sure, I'm going to do. Everybody in the room was like, okay. She was unbelievable. Now, I've seen other good pitches, but that's the one that surprised me the most, because there was just, in my head going into that, I said, you got to be out of your mind to do this. And her pitch was great. I loved it. A lot of us put money into it, and I give her a lot of credit because she's doing quite well.
Yeah, undeniable. I mean, that's, we look for undeniable people with some specific insight in an inevitable market. And
that one's a little bit different in that, there was a ski hill there. It wasn't like something's on a laptop and eventually,
we'll make it. Yeah, right. Someday we'll make it, yeah.
So I knew that was a different thing, and there's land involved, so that was a different story. But for her to overcome, for everybody that was there, given what's going on again with the climate, everybody's like, oh yeah, we're going with Lindsay. Yeah, oh yeah.
That's awesome.
Some advice on angel investing again. Top 2 or 3 things that you learned maybe the hard way or through your diligence and preparation that every first time or early angel investor should really ask themselves.
Are you okay if you lose everything? You have to start with that, I think. And as I said to you guys earlier, that for me, it's a portion of our portfolio. I hope we don't lose it. I hope it goes well. But I also love the education I've gotten from it. And that in itself might be worth it to me. I really like to learn stuff. And I had a lot to learn after I finished my career. So that's worked out really nicely. I think the other thing is that it's really tempting to put too much money in early. I think a lot of people do that, and that's a bad idea. And that's the one reason I did like the syndicate model that I did, by putting in a little bit, even though you don't feel quite as close to the product as you would if you invested in somebody here in Vermont. You certainly can learn a lot, and by reading, what the syndicate is doing, in terms of why they're investing in that, and what the company's doing, telling you how things are going, we are growing, and all this kind of thing, you learn things that you can then use when you're ready to put a little more money down in Vermont.
And any differences between syndicates or investing in non-Vermont companies versus Vermont companies? Do you see valuation or term differences on the whole, or are we pretty similar to other locations?
Hard to tell in the term situation. Depending on who you are dealing with on a national level, you may have access to deals you would never get in Vermont. Because when you're looking at a syndicate that might be looking well beyond even where they are, but even if you just start in California, which is where the one I am doing is, they have more to choose from, quite honestly. So I think that our choices being limited here does make it tougher to make money, to be perfectly honest with you. However, on the flip side, if you have a specialty and that company could not only use your money but use your expertise, it's awesome. It's just really cool to feel like you're truly part of the company beyond just putting money in.
Do you have a favorite memory from being an angel investor?
I got a check once, and that was...
I was just going to say, you remember checks coming back.
Yeah, somehow that was pretty awesome. One thing that did happen that was really cool is this takes so long. I feel like I've been doing this a long time, but I still haven't made money overall, and I still hope to. But one thing that happened was the syndicate, at one point, they sold 20% of the shares that I invested through them, and also within the VC fund that they had. So I thought that was really cool that they did that, because they sent a check back that more than covered the original.
So they took partial liquidity from all the shares, and that was enough to cover. So
right, which I thought was really cool. And it's like, okay.
Did you feel brilliant at that point?
I'm not sure if I felt brilliant or lucky.
Just lucky.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. But it did. It makes you feel like, oh, okay, I can do this. And then I haven't heard from them in a while.
That's awesome.
How would you, rate the sophistication of, say, the Vermont investment community now? And I use the word sophistication. There's more funds now. There's new entrants. Folks been doing it. Like, are we serving? And we're part of that group, good or bad. Like, are we serving companies that well?
I think so.
Yeah,
I do. I think so. I wondered when, more VC firms were, I don't know, popping up, but I wondered if there was going to be enough room for them all. One thing that seems to happen here, and you would know better than I would, is the same VCs are putting in money for the same companies. And that happens here so much more than, say, with who I'm working with out in LA or out in the Bay Area, because it's a matter of it needs to be done. So I think that's a good thing and a bad thing, because it's harder to spread out VCs and what they're looking at here than it is in other places. Like I said, I think that part of that is good, part of that is bad. I always feel like I'm in the Dudley Fund.
Yep.
When we put money in and then I see you guys put money in the same thing, I actually feel really good about that. I do. So there's that sense of, oh, that's good. Now I feel,
There's another person in the lifeboat here.
Well, I'd like to think of it as we're all rowing in the same direction.
Wouldn't that be nice? Yes.
But yeah, I think that happens a lot less when you start to get into bigger places, because there's just so much more available.
Yeah, it's been really neat, Nicole and I were chatting about this, just to see the number of new organized venture funds that are doing seed stage and, seed plus, early Series A stage investing, because, from the founder's perspective, there's choice, right? And there's also more than one conversation, because back when it was just one or two of us, if we said no because we didn't understand it or we didn't, vibe well with the team, you didn't have a lot of local options. And I think that's to the detriment of a healthy ecosystem. And I love the deals that we don't do and others do. And I wish them the best. And I hope we're proven wrong, that we had a blind spot. We didn't understand the tech, or we were too lazy to learn something new. And
yeah, but sometimes it's somebody else's specialty,
Yeah.
So there are many reasons for that. One thing when I looked at what I've done with VC investing is I was really happy to see that Fresh Tracks did a growth fund. And I said, okay, so if you're going to do this fund over here that's going to be a lot of seed stuff, I really like the idea of a growth fund because you're getting in later and they're established, and it's just another way to look at investing. So to me, that is, just they're not all the same. I guess is what I'm saying, and them not being all the same, I think is important. You're divesting even within.
A family office fund is different than in our fund, right? We have such a mission, and we're basically investing off our balance sheet now with Fund 2, which is a $9 million fund, and we've not so visibly put out over $3 million into 6 companies over the last 12 months, 14 months, and it's been really exciting. We just invested in a bank.
What?
A correspondent bank down in White River Junction, Acceleron. So, and
that's like investing in a baseball team.
Yeah,
why would somebody do
right?
that?
Well, we're 1 for 1 so far in fintech, and
that's great.
The one win that Goldman Sachs bought was a really great one for the team and investors. So hopefully this one will do it. And how do you see companies? Burlington versus sort of rest of Vermont. Have you invested in any companies outside of Chittenden County in Vermont?
What county is Bolton in?
Chittenden.
It's right on the edge, isn't it?
Right on the edge, right?
Boy, that's a great question. I'm not sure that I have. Well, through the funds they have.
Yep. Dudley has for
Yeah, but I don't know that outside the funds I have, which is a little bit embarrassing. Now, having said that, I'm really happy at what's going on with, down in Rutland. They've got Startup Rutland going on, and then Due North, up north of here. But I've been down to Rutland. I haven't been to Due North yet, and I really like what they're doing. But I'm not really involved that much, and I'm hoping to learn more. So to answer your question, I've been really.
Maybe we can come up with something, Nicole, to show Tom, right?
Yes, for sure.